revenge from? For people, how are you actually interacting with those people, and is it with kindness? And this is where St. Paul's command is challenging to us. So here is a key principle, and Abuna Anthony spends a great deal of time talking about how kindness is a superpower, okay? And it's available to all of us. Why is kindness a superpower? Because kindness changes relationships. And really, our whole existence and our whole life is a series of relationships, of dynamic relationships with other people, various relationships, family, work, all kinds of interpersonal relationships, and really being able to master kindness and to transform those relationships would transform your life and the life of others around you. So the principle that we'll base this topic on, and the principle that is the basis of Shanti's book, is that our happiness depends far more on how we treat others than how we ourselves are treated. Does that make sense to you? Does that seem intuitive to you, or not so much? Yes? Okay. So the examples that Abuna gives that kind of makes it seem to make more sense is, so if you go to work today, and you're at a meeting, and there's something that you've been working on, for example, and during the meeting, one of your colleagues takes credit for your idea. Okay, takes credit for it, says it as his own, kind of beats you to the punch, and gets a lot of praise for it. Okay. How you choose to respond is going to affect you more so than it affects that person. Meaning that if for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and possibly the rest of the year, I spend telling everybody the great injustice, like repeating the story and the scenario and telling everyone about it, how does that affect me? Negatively. What is going to be like my emotional state? It's going to be pretty negative, right? If I repeat it over and over and over. What if I choose to actually respond in kindness? What if I'm not saying that you don't respond to it in the meeting and kind of give context to your thoughts in this meeting. I'm not saying that part. I'm talking about, do you choose to dwell on it thereafter or not? Are you gonna tell everyone how horrible this person was to you, and all the things that you've done for them in the past year that have been good, and then this is how they treat you, and then you dwell on it. Ultimately, the one who's going to suffer from that type of behavior, if you continue to dwell on that negativity, is you. Okay? So this is a key principle, that our happiness depends far more on how we treat others than others treat us. So we can choose to dwell in the negativity and be sorrowful and be angry and be full of malice and all those other things, or we can choose to respond with kindness. So the book, Shanti's book and Abuna's series is actually a challenge that for the next 30 days, you do these three things that we're going to talk about. And really, for it to be effective, you really want to think about one person, one individual that you want to apply these principles to, okay? So I want you to think just immediately of someone that you have challenges being kind to, okay? Someone who, when you hear their name, immediately there's some negativity, there's some anger, there's some frustration, I want you to think about that person as we're talking about this.
Just one person?
Just one person, yeah, just one person. And actually, Abuna said, he's like, you're going to be tempted to want to apply these principles to multiple people, but for it to really be successful, you want to focus in your energy and your effort and your prayers on this one person, okay? So the first thing, the first thing is on my screen, but not on this one.
Try going back out and back in.
first thing that we want to work on is nixing the negatives. Okay? So for the next 30 days, the individual that you're struggling with and the person that you really want to be the object of your 30-day challenge, you are going to say nothing negative or negatively about this person or to this person. Okay? So for the next 30 days, we're not going to say anything negative about the person. And this actually even includes thinking, like thoughts, like just between you and yourself. When you start rethinking about what that person did to you or your, recent, frustrating experience with them. And this person could be a family member, could be your mom, could be your sibling, it could be a cousin, it could be a coworker, it could be your roommate, it could be anybody. You're going to have to, and Abuna says this was the hardest one, is to not say or do or think anything negative about this person. To really, bring your thoughts under control and your words under control. But this is a really big step in controlling that all of those really difficult feelings, those challenging, malice, evil, revengeful feelings that you have towards someone. It first begins with controlling the negativity, and we're going to talk more in detail about how to do that in just a moment. The next one is you're going to practice praise. So every day you're going to think of something, and I highlighted and bolded the word that you can sincerely praise about this person. Okay, sincerely. So if we're interacting with this person, if they're a colleague or if they're a roommate, we don't want to take this challenge by just, okay, I'm going to say something to you and it's not really true, I don't really mean it, but I just want to, see the outcome of this challenge and if it really works. But part of that is for you to think of for you to dig deep and actually find a good quality for you to sincerely praise. And for it to be effective and for it to be received well by the other person, it really does need to be sincere. Okay, so nixing the negatives, practicing praise. And then the third one is actually carrying out kindness. And so every day we want to do one small act of kindness for this person. Okay, and we're going to talk about what those look like. And I actually bolded the word small because that tends to be the most challenging, is actually do little, small, thoughtful things. Okay? So nixing the negativity, to say nothing to or about. And I want to say the about is harder. Okay? Like sometimes you can control what you say to the person, like you don't,
Just
tell
avoid them.
Exactly, avoid them, or you can not really necessarily tell your coworker, even though it might show on your face, but like you don't really say exactly what you're thinking. I think I saw a meme that said, don't fall for my my body language and my smiling face. I'd punch you in the mouth if I didn't think I'd get fired. So we sometimes can control what we say, but not, to the person, but not about. Like about when you come home and you talk to your family member, your friend, or whatever about your day. A lot of it is going to be based on that frustrating experience you had with this individual, and being able to control that actually goes a long way for your peace and your state of mind, for it to be healthy. Okay. So what are ways that we're negative? So sometimes people, like I said, we often think of ourselves as kind. So when you think about, kindness challenge, that's not a challenge for me because I'm generally a kind person. And we don't realize that there's lots of times we're unkind. This is opposite. Like some of us know that we're negative and some of us don't really think that we're negative. Okay. And so identifying the types of negativity and what are some elements in our interactions with this person that we're struggling to be kind with can help us to focus on the behavior that's negative and to work on it. So the first type is exacerbation. So this is, you might not say anything to this person, but the size in your response, okay, to what they say or what they do. For girls, the eye rolling. Okay, like just the constant eye rolling, like every time this we interact with this person or even their name is mentioned, like there's an immediate eye roll. Okay, and then the body language, our tone of voice when we're dealing with this person. Like sometimes when this person calls you, like you talking to somebody else, and then this person calls you, your tone of voice is totally different because you're talking to this person. There's like immediate anger. There's immediate, defensive types. It's just, all kinds of body language reflecting how, that negativity that you feel towards
The
that
funny
person.
thing about that is
Yeah.
you can't fake it.
It's
And
hard.
I think the other person can pick up on it too, right?
Right. It really kind of cycles. Like if you're already having negative interactions and frustrating, types of interactions with this person, and then they're getting this from you constantly. It just fuels it. Like
Yep.
it just increases that tension in that relationship. Okay. The next one is defeatism, and that's a lot of the things is that we just categorize this person that there's just no use. Like I'm never going to have a positive relationship with this person or interaction with them because they are X, Y, Z and all those different things. So they're never going to change. I'm never going to accept their behavior or what they do. And so when we interact with them, we have a very defeatist type of attitude. Sarcasm is a big one, and it's a way of being passive aggressive. Like the person who took your idea. The next time that you interact with them, you'll make a smart comment about it. Do you want this, or do you want to just go ahead and take it for yourself? Or what I mean? Like you're really saying what you mean. Like it's a joke,
Here's my next
haha,
idea.
whatever. But it's really not a joke. You're really just trying to roast them or whatever, as my kids would say. So that's sarcasm. And there are certain people that get a lot more sarcasm from us, and we're really just trying to get that aggravation that we're experiencing, get them to feel that we're really frustrated. One, what's kind of like complaining and criticizing. So this one is often just disguised to ourselves because we don't realize that it's negative behavior. It's really just disguised as just stating the facts. I've actually heard people say like, I'm not gossiping about him. I'm just describing him. I'm just telling you what happened. You asked how my day was, so I'm telling you this guy did this to me, or my mom did this to me for the 1,000th time, or my mom called me. It was a very frustrating conversation. And so whenever you talk to anybody else, you feel like you're just telling them. They asked how you're doing, So this is how I'm doing. My mom made me really angry today, like she did the last, however many years. So we don't realize that it's complaining and sulking and criticizing, and we think it's just just telling you about how my day went. But we really can control what we say about how our day went, and just dwelling on those negative experiences and those interactions.
I think that's a
with that
good
person.
one. That when you come home and your spouse asks you how's your day,
Right.
I'll just say Suzette said, don't talk.
I can't tell you. I can't tell you.
Mike, you do get a lot of
That is a good one.
Mike's so good.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're going to have those things, and we have relationships. Like we said, our whole life is a serious relationship. It's not like we're going to be shallow with our spouses and our best friends and our parents and those around us by not actually telling them important events that happen. But it's the emotional negativity with all of those things that we talked about, where we dwell on it. And actually, if you are able to tell that person how you responded, it actually, it even changes. It even changes your conversation and how your attitude and your mood the rest of the time. Okay, and definitely suspicion. So they did it before; they'll do it again. And that's how every time I interact with that person, I'm expecting them to say something obnoxious to me, or I'm expecting them to backstab me, or and I'm already treating them every time I'm interacting with them with that anticipation. So that's also a major form of negativity. Catastrophizing everything. So everything is the end of the world. Yes, what happened was not good. Okay, that interaction with that person, but sometimes we make it much bigger and give it a lot more magnitude. Your mom's obnoxious comment about her wanting to meet somebody because you're still single, and her constantly doing that. Like, it's annoying and obnoxious, but it's really not the end of the world. Like, it's not going to affect every moment of your life that you have to dwell on it and complain about it and things like that. Or your roommate left something out, and now the apartment's full of bugs or whatever it is. Like, it's a problem, and you have to deal with it, but try and make it not larger than it is. Like, just deal with the situation in the appropriate scope. Resentment. Resentment is really focused negativity. So all of those things that we talked about and all of those feelings that we have, just really focused on this one individual. Okay, almost feeling like everything that's negative in my life can some way, shape, or form be tied into this individual. And like I said, like just it could be just the mention of their name makes me angry. Like I have an emotional, strong response to their presence, their name, their voice, their all of those things. It's just you become resentful. So one of the things that I wanted to say when we look at all of those things is when we first said about kindness and we thought of ourselves as kind, and we like that thought, we could friendly and generous and things like that, and we identify with that, and we like that image for ourselves. One of the reasons, besides what the behavior or whatever frustrating dynamic you have in the relationship with the person that is challenging to you, one of the things that is also, whether or not you actually verbalize it or realize it, is we know that the phrase, that person brings out the worst in me. Okay? We like to think of ourselves as kind and loving and forgiving and all those things. When I am interacting with a person that makes me like this is another reason I dislike them. Because they bring this out in me, and I don't like this. I don't like this in myself, right? So when I'm talking with you and already my tone is angry, or when I'm dealing with this person and then I complain about them the rest of the day, and the rest of my day is just filled with like sulking and bitterness, that's among the reasons I resent that person, because they bring out the worst in me. Okay? No one likes someone to bring out the worst in them. We all like somebody that makes us, appear to be far more loving and kind and generous and all the good attributes that we prefer to associate ourselves with. So another challenge in this kindness challenge is, how do I deal with this person brought out the worst in me, now that is out and I have to deal with it. The blessing that God has put that individual in your life is to bring out the worst, okay? Because that worst shouldn't stay in. One of the frightening things is that you would think that you're really a kind person when you're actually filled with all this kind of behavior, but nobody really brought it out for you to deal with. And so God, because He loves us, He brings out a person that kind of puts that mirror to us where we realize we have all these behaviors and now we have to work on it. So people who bring out the worst in us are a blessing, because then it gives us the opportunity to realize the behaviors that we need to work on. Okay, so how to control negativity. In 2 Corinthians, St. Paul says, cast down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So it really begins in the mind. Okay, the mind. Number one, we have to realize that I do have resentment towards this person, that I am unkind to this person. Number two, I have to realize that I have to deal with it. It has to be dealt with, and I can't continue to display all those negative behaviors that we just talked about. And to realize that in order for me to control what I say to or about that person, first I have to control my thoughts about that person. And we have to, through Jesus Christ, bring every thought into captivity. And it really is into the obedience of Christ. And this is Christ-like behavior, and therefore it can only be through the Holy Spirit of God, because I'm not going to be able to do it in my power. I will fail. And I think we've all struggled in an effort to try and be nice to this person, because we try and do it in our power, and we really can't. So this is going to be key as we talk about what we're going to practice, to realize in whose strength and power if we're going to accomplish anything or achieve anything. So one of the things, or the biggest parts of the next negative behavior, sometimes when we're interacting with that person, part of our frustration is feeling helpless. Like, this person will constantly repeat this behavior. And how am I going to deal with it? Because it frustrates me every time. It hurts me every time. It aggravates me every time. How am I going to deal with it? And we feel, because that action is often, you're at the mercy of the other person to stop that action. So you have to realize, if we're going to control the negativity, I have to focus on my part. I can't control what they do. And none of what we're going to talk about today is about how to get the other person to act a certain way so you can be kind to them. We're assuming that they're continuing this behavior. In the 30-day challenge, what the book says and what Abuna tells us is, actually, if you practice these things toward the person does change. But our focus really is not about changing the person, it's about changing myself. So I will focus only on my part of the problem. Meaning, the person who backstabbed me at work, I'm going to focus on my response to them and how that can be kind. My mother, who repeats certain annoying behaviors, we're not going to assume she's stopping any of that. We're going to learn how to deal in a respectful and loving and kind way to the comments or the suggestions or whatever it is that she's doing. The same for my roommate, for my best friend who's things are not going well right now. Any of those kind of things, we're going to focus on my part, and that actually will give you more control back and let you feel less like a victim of this person's actions. Okay, practicing praise. So Abuna says that nixing negativity is the hardest, and it is. For some of us, practicing praise is the hardest. So maybe I can control telling everybody what this person did to me, but for me to actually say something nice to them or about them sincerely, no. No. Maybe I can control the negativity. I'm going to control saying like what I really think of you and hope that God changes what I really think of you. But you want me to go extra and actually say something nice to them? That's really challenging. So Dale Carnegie says, people work for money, but go the extra mile for recognition, praise, and rewards. A lot of what we're unwilling to do by praising that other individual is actually not only what changes their behavior, but more so what will actually change that negative behavior I have towards them. Okay? When I start focusing on anything positive that they have. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb in Proverbs 16, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. So we know that everybody loves praise. Everybody loves praise. Everybody loves recognition. Since school, okay, since kindergarten, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a certificate. Because you realize that reinforces positive behavior, and really any behavior that is rewarded is repeated. Okay. So the opposite of that is true. So if I want to focus on negative behavior and I give response to that person who's irritating me and things like that, that actually repeats their behavior too. Okay. So if what they do, produces a response to me, makes me frustrated, makes me act like a lunatic in the meeting after they took credit for my work or whatever it is, if that actually produced the behavior that individual was looking for. If I have a coworker or a roommate or whatever who's really trying to get under my skin, me reacting will promote them to continue to do that because they got a reaction out of me. But when they actually get kindness in return, then sometimes that they won't continue that because it didn't produce the effect they were looking for.
So what you're looking for here is genuine praise, right? So obviously if they did something to your detriment, you're not going to be praising them on that. So you're going to be searching and looking for something positive about that person, right?
Right. So we're obviously never going to praise, negative behavior, whether it's they gossiped about you, your best friend, or any one of your friends backstabbed you in a certain way, or whatever it is. Obviously, that's not going to be behavior that you are, praising, because that's not sincere. But you'll find something about them. Their ability to organize, their ability to help others. Or, I actually just attended a seminar with somebody in business, and I was really walked away like not impressed with some of their tactics. Their business tactics was dishonest. This is actually a person that's currently on Shark Tank. She was a guest speaker somewhere. Anyway, and I just was not happy with like some of the things that she was saying. It was kind of like she would kind of say anything to close the deal. But then on other things, like throughout her speech, she refused to badmouth people. Like she actually was like, I'm not going to say this person's name because that would be whatever. And so even though she had this really negative, like she's willing to close a deal and be dishonest, but she refused to badmouth people. You can find something good in everybody. The thing is when that person's frustrating us, we don't want to find anything good in them. Okay, we don't want to. But the importance, and to our next slide, is why do we withhold that praise? We think that this is their job and they're supposed to do it. So sometimes, if it's a coworker, that, like I said, have negative interactions with them, but they do something else really well. They organize a meeting or a presentation or whatever it is. I'm not going to praise them for that. That's their job. My mom, even though she's like giving me these really annoying comments or whatever, and then she makes like a nice dinner or prepares lunch for me or makes something for me on my way out of the door, whatever it is, I'm not going to thank her for that. She's mom, like she signed up for that. That's fine. So we refuse like to actually praise them on something that they're already doing. We think it's their job, or we we look at some behavior and they're doing it, but they're doing it either what we think is wrong or we would do it a different way. So, so I don't want to praise them for that because I know they're doing it and they're pretty consistent about it, or but it's I would do it a different way. But more so, I think this one for many of us is I don't want to praise them even on the things that they're doing well because they hurt me, they annoy me, and they aggravate me, and I don't want to say anything nice to them. I don't want to, even if they're doing it well. And it's because I have all those other negative feelings and the resentful feelings. So, it becomes a vicious cycle. Like, I refuse to look for the good in them because I just really want to see them as completely, as completely evil, or everything that they do is horrible, or at least the main things that they do is horrible. So why do I need to praise? And Eleanor Roosevelt was just saying that, we all know that we like praise, but we're very stingy about giving it to others. So why should I praise? So we know that praise behavior is rewarded. Rewarded behavior is repeated. Praise, obviously, and recognition is major elements of award and reward and reinforcement of good behavior. And for the reasons that we just talked about, whether I think it's their job or whether they're not doing things the way that I would do them, or more importantly, because I have anger and hostility and whatever towards them, so I don't want to praise them. So why would I want to praise them? Because the primary beneficiary of my praise to the other person is me. So in Romans 12, St. Paul says, "Repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If at all possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, 'Vengeance is mine, and I will repay,' says the Lord. Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. Do not overcome evil by evil, but overcome evil with good." So what does the praise of someone that's annoying and aggravating and all those things, what do you think me praising them does from these verses?
Heap coals of fire on their head.
Heap coals of fire on their head. And what do we think that means?
I think it's going to make them think, I'm treating this person badly, but look how they're treating me. So
Right.
I think next time they do something bad, they can at least stop and think.
Right.
It's putting it back on them.
Exactly.
It's putting them. It's not. You know what? I did my part. I'll let God deal with it. But I'm putting that back on them for them to decide their actions
Right.
forward.
So from the side of the individual, from the stance of the other individual reaping coals on their head is, even if they're dirty, you're not dirty. When you take the high road, if you were, having that interaction with that's negative with someone, and they are getting nothing but kindness from you in return, very few people will continue in that evil behavior and actually start making them feel bad about themselves. But when it's a fight and you're both playing dirty, they're more motivated to continue in that way. Okay, so that's one aspect. But I really liked, he says, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. So when you make effort to find good things in that person and you begin to see that person in a different light, yes, they have a great deal of negative actions that I strongly dislike, but they have, these 1, 2, 3 things that are really good that I could potentially actually learn from. It begins to shift your attitude towards them, and it begins kind of like pouring water on the fire. Actually what you gain is peace. And that's what you're looking for, right? What we talked about before is, how we treat others, or our happiness, depends far more on how we treat others and others treat us. So when I, decide that I'm going to stop nix the negativity and actually practice praise and say good things to or about that person, especially to, like if I'm able to bring it myself to say good things about this person, not even in their presence, it begins to change my mindset and I begin to have peace. And then, when we talk about carrying out acts of kindness themselves, if you can actually bring yourself to feed them and to give them, something to drink when they're thirsty, and really overcome that evil with good, the one who will be transformed by that is you. Okay, even if the other person isn't transformed, the one who will be transformed is you. So carrying out the kindness. You've heard many times, random acts of kindness, and you want to think about doing something kind. So this 30-day challenge, for 30 days, we're going to identify this person that is a challenge for us to be kind to, that I have a lot of negative feelings, interactions, and things like that with. I'm going to start practicing praise. So every day I will say something positive to or about this person. And I'm going to do one small act of kindness. So we want to talk about that kindness. We don't have to, maybe you can read the whole verse in Luke 6. So Christ says, "But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who spitefully use you." So we can see that I've kind of bolded a lot of the actions of carrying out kindness. And before you do anything for the other person, it involves loving and blessing and praying and things like a lot of it is on your relationship with God first before any kind of actual action is going to be with the individual. Give to everyone who asks of you, and from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? And this is when we talked about in the beginning, we all think of ourselves as kind. Most of the kindness that we are going to describe are people who are kind to us, okay? But we're not, or people who are, or we're indifferent to, or strangers, or things like that. But if we really wanted to evaluate our kindness, who are we kind to that is our enemy? Okay, who are we kind to that's sinned against us? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return, and your reward will be great. And you will be the sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. So when we talked about the importance of kindness in the beginning, we said kindness transforms relationships, and that's why it's important. And it's important for your emotional and spiritual health, because when you continue to dwell on all this negativity or your negative interactions with that person, it's really harmful to you. But actually, what's the most important outcome of you being kind to evil people? What is the most important aspect from what you see highlighted in red? Who do you become like?
God. Correct.
God. Because what was God? Who was he when he was here? He was kind to the unthankful and to the evil. So really, this is our goal in practicing the 30-day challenge of kindness. Our goal is to be Christ-like. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach and not resentful. How can we wash each other's feet if we're only kind to those who are kind to us? I mean, is the world washing each other's feet? No. Okay. So we're called to go a step beyond what the world does, and when we're just kind to everyone who's kind to us, then we're no different. So undeserved kindness is the measure of our Christ-likeness. So I want you to think about actually the goal of this challenge. Undeserved kindness is the measure of our Christ-likeness. Because Christ died for us while we were yet sinners. Okay? Christ came and blessed those who were persecuting him. He dwelled with his disciples who he knew would betray him. And when he was on the cross, he was abandoned and alone. And he knew that was going to happen, but yet he was kind and loving and merciful and forgiving to all those who he knew would betray him. And after they betrayed him, he gave them that same love and kindness and forgiveness. So our kindness is a measure of our Christ-likeness, and it is not to those who deserve it. So as we think of this challenge, really understand that this challenge is for us to be Christ-like. This is a 30-day Christ-like challenge for us to practice Christ-like behavior to someone who is not Christ-like, okay, in order for us to be Christ-like. So how can we carry out the actual kindness? So we wanted to focus on small acts of service. Why do you think we want to focus on small?
So that
You're not discouraged. I mean,
You're not discouraged. It's okay. This is true, but actually, the large acts are actually easier to do than the small ones. Meaning, if somebody has an accident on the side of the road, even if it's that annoying coworker or whatever, you're gonna stop and help them because you're a human being, and that's what you could do. If that person's in a fire, if your mom needs help, even though like you kind of have a struggling relationship with her, or your brother, or your sister, or your roommate, your roommate needs a ride to the airport, even though you have all these issues with them, you're still gonna do it for the most part. But the small acts are the ones that actually take thought and take effort. Meaning, it's their turn to take something. Your roommate, it's their turn to take out the trash, but you do it instead. Your coworker, they forgot, they're going into a presentation and you can see that they forgot something on their desk or whatever, and they need it, and kind of, you're still angry about what they did last time. Are you going to take it to them? It's those small, thoughtful acts that make us actually deny ourselves, deny what our desire would be intently or initially, and actually carry out that small, like that undeserved kindness. Do something small for that person is actually harder for us to do than the really big things, because the really big things we would do as human beings, but it's the small things. It's the going above and beyond for that person whose name already just makes you angry and infuriates you. It's that small extra, I know you like this and I saw it, so I got it for you. For someone that you have a lot of challenges in your relationship with. So we want to actually focus on doing a small act of kindness for this person every day through the 30-day challenge. And this verse in Acts 10, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power, and he went around doing good. So just every opportunity you have to do something good for that person that really doesn't deserve it, or that you really would prefer to do something else, or you'd rather just, if at best, the best you could do is avoid them, but actually interact with them, do something kind to them is really difficult, and those small acts are very difficult. Giving undivided attention is very important. In Proverbs, God asks us for that, demands that of us. My son, give me your heart. This can be a challenge with particularly family members who are, or friends and things like that, who are sometimes very needy, and that's sometimes frustrating in your relationship with them. And you're willing to do the big things for them, like I will help you move, I will help you, like I'll do the big things, but I'm not going to be there like every day listening to your, whatever silly stories. Like I don't have time for that, and plus they frustrate me, so I'm not going to do them. But forcing yourself to make that person feel important and giving them undivided attention is an important aspect of showing kindness. This one is difficult as well. Allowing that person that you dislike or that you're struggling with in a relationship, allowing them to help you. Okay. Oftentimes, because I really don't want very much to do with that person, or at least I'd like to have as little interaction with them as possible, allowing them to do something for you and making them feel that you need them, okay, is something that we're unwilling to do. But what did Christ do with the Samaritan woman? He actually asked her to drink. Okay? He showed her that he needs her. So sometimes when we're dealing with that very difficult person, that difficult individual, actually coming to them and asking them for help and showing weakness in life will change their harsh interaction sometimes with you. And this one, refuse to respond. So sometimes you just have to refuse to respond to the petty comment, to the annoying suggestion, for not rendering evil for evil. Okay, and this is a very hard one. for you to be the bigger person and not respond, to, what they said about you to somebody else, or, their backstabbing behavior, whatever it is, for you to be the bigger person and not respond and not go, tit for tat, it is very challenging. But it is actually an act of kindness for you not to defame someone as they've done to you or try and ruin their reputation, though that's exactly what they did for you. This is an act of kindness. So one of the biggest barriers, as we talked about, so basically the 30-day challenge for kindness, we're going to nix negativity, we're going to practice praise, and we're going to carry out small acts of kindness, and we talked about how to do all those things. One of the biggest barriers to this challenge, what do you think it is?
Our own ego.
Ego, pride, and forgiveness. Okay. So part of our refusal, or like the emotional refusal to want to not be negative, or to actually praise them, or to do something nice for them, is because ultimately I don't really forgive them. And we want to forgive others, not because they deserve forgiveness, but like we said, because we deserve peace. So what are the steps to forgive? Abuna says this, and it actually was really good. One of the, we often see that picture of Jesus that says, when I forgive, I forget. And then immediately feel like, I don't forget. I knew exactly what they did, like date and time, okay? And it's especially if it's repeated behavior, I don't forget that. So it really doesn't mean forgetting. It really means canceling the debt. So an important part of it is to identify what they owe you, to quantify the debt. To forgive someone, if we said, we're not going to really forget, but we're going to think about that debt, and then we're going to cancel that debt. For you to cancel that debt, first you have to quantify it. Meaning, I really need to think about what this person did and exactly why I am hurt, I'm aggravated. So this person did what? This person talked bad about me and ruined my reputation. That is the debt. This person, took my promotion at work because, they were backstabbing and devious or whatever. This person that I thought was my best friend, did this behind my back, and they really hurt me because I trusted them, so they broke my trust. So you really want to quantify exactly what it is. And Abuna gives the example that, like, if you go to a bank and you ask for loan forgiveness, they don't just write you a blanket check loan forgiveness. They quantify first what the debt is so they know what they're forgiving. So it is very important for us to pinpoint exactly what that person did, so that we can understand what it is. It's okay, that person ruined my reputation with these people or whatever it is, and really understand this is what I'm going to let go of.
I think sometimes it's also it's a small stuff that they do, and because we're really upset with this person, it seems a lot larger and bigger than what they actually did.
Right.
So quantifying it, sometimes it just puts it into perspective. It could be something very, very silly or very, very small,
Right.
but because I'm already harboring all these negative feelings toward this person, whatever small thing that they do that it annoys me, it just seems a lot bigger and just makes me a lot more angry than what it's really about.
Right.
Well, I think it depends. I mean, if it's that same one person that keeps doing it, it all adds up, right? So I think it depends on the circumstances.
Right. But yeah, and to your point, sometimes like say like it's a let's say your mother keeps calling you and really asking about your marital situation and what your plans are, and just like really like you really hate like just seeing her number on your phone, because you're going to have this conversation. Even no matter what the conversation starts out with, it's going to end up there, and then you're going to have this awkwardness. So really thinking about why it is that you hate that, and why it is that you're angry at her for that and don't forgive her for that. If you really quantify, well, it's because she's pressing on this sore point, and so therefore, it's not like I can't stand my mother, but it's she's pressing on this thing. And it does help to, okay, I'm going to let this thing that she's doing over and over, I'm going to cancel that. And so it does
Magnify.
help to put it
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then once we quantify that debt, we're going to cancel that debt just like Christ did for us. And then we're going to dismiss the case. Okay, so dismiss the case doesn't, again, mean that you forget about it, but you're not going to continue to retry it per se. Okay, like with everybody, and with yourself and with your thoughts. And we talk about bringing our thoughts into submission. Rethinking about that hurtful situation or that interaction or what this person is constantly doing, or whatever the hurt was, okay, whatever the crime against you was. Stop retrying it. Stop telling it to other witnesses. Stop dwelling on it. Stop stating the facts that are in your favor. All of those things. When we do that, that helps us to cancel the debt and to move forward so that we can have peace. So basically stop reliving it in your mind and in your words and in your actions. Stop living that case again and retrying it. Okay, so really that forgiveness is just that thought of opening your hand and letting something that's hurtful go. And it's not something obviously that's easy or that's done overnight, but with prayer and all the things that the Holy Spirit can do and work in us in our lives, it can help us to just release all of that toxicity. So, in conclusion, our happiness depends far more on how we treat others than we ourselves are treated. So, understanding that the importance of being kind to others, really, it just changes my life and my attitude and my actions and my character, and it makes me more Christ-like, okay, which is the final point. The goal of being kind is to be Christ-like, and the more I am kind to people who don't deserve it, people who hurt me, people who are evil, people who will never ask for forgiveness and don't think they did anything wrong, or whatever it is, the more I am kind to those people with by not being negative to or about them, by practicing praise and carrying out kindness when I have those opportunities, the more I will be Christ-like. So, challenge accepted? Challenge accepted. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions or anything you'd like to say or add? Please go ahead.
So, just going back to the last point about dismissing the case, I think it's very important that once you decide to forget about something, you really have to forget about it. And if it happens again, just come, because this sometimes happens with us is, okay, I give him one chance, I won't give him another chance, and we feel that we're doing them a favor by forgetting the case or dismissing the case. And in fact, we're not doing so because we're following what the Bible says and what God does with us, because God forgives us every time we do a sin, and we can keep doing the same sin even if we repent one time after the other, and God keeps forgiving us. So when we forgive people, even for the same act more than once, we're not doing them a favor. We're actually working for us. And a very nice verse in Philippians 3:13 says, "Brethren, I could not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before." So it's very important, if you do decide to forgive someone, you just throw it behind your back and you start a new page, and don't have this thing in your mind that, oh, I've done him a favor, or like you mentioned, keep saying these facts to everyone. Hey, he's done this to me and I've forgiven him, and maybe I'm not sure when he does it again, what would I do with him. These are very important things, and I think this helps us when we deal with people in our daily life, and gives us the peace that we need also.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that. So going back to the challenge and it being focused on one person, so really that's what we want to do for the next 30 days, is identify the person that we want to apply these principles, mother, child, sibling, coworker, roommate, friend, and then we're going to practice these actions. But the interesting thing that Abuna said is that really when you begin to do them, it really becomes hard for you to focus that on one person. So even though you are focused this towards, a relative, whatever it is, but you'll find the person that cuts you off on traffic, that you would speed up and come back in front of them and slow down and those kind of things, you just let it go. You begin to practice these things otherwise, across all of your relationships. And so, we want to focus in on that one person and begin to explore how God is working us in our lives. But the more we become Christ-like, with this person, we're going to become Christ-like with everybody. And you'll find yourself being less revengeful, less negative, maybe not, a repeated behavior with somebody else that you're talking about, but maybe when you start talking to one of your friends, you're less apt to talk about the person that cut you off or the person that whatever. Just all that negativity, you begin to realize that talking about it and living in it is unhealthy. And your relationships with others that don't have to hear you whine and complain and criticize and all those things becomes healthier too. So it starts, and to be effective, you really want to focus on one person, but you'll find that behavior, that kindness, spills over into all the other aspects of your life. Okay? All right. Thanks guys.
That was great. Thank you.